For those that just joined, thank you for being here. We will get started in a couple more minutes so we make sure we've got our other participants here. All right. Just waiting on one more participant and then we'll get started here. Just a minute. Okay, I think we're there. So we'll go ahead and get started. First up, I'd like to welcome you to our presentation today and an opportunity to learn more about this exciting program that's offered through the Department of Energy. My name is Steve Black. I'm the director for the Manufacturing Extension Partnership here in the state of Utah. The Manufacturing Extension Partnership comes from the U.S. Department of Commerce, and our sister organization, which is the Intermountain Industrial Assessment Center, will be presenting the content today. So we're grateful that you've joined us, and we'll go ahead and get started. Go to the next slide there. As far as an agenda today, we have some student presenters from the IIAC, the Intermountain Industrial Assessment Center, to speak with us today about the program associated with this $300,000 grant opportunity. And with that, what we'll do is we'll go over both organizations a little bit, both the MEP and the IIAC. Then we'll talk about how to get involved, and then go down through the assessment process, and then finally wrap up by talking about the eligibility and the process of getting into this grant application. So, first off, let me just speak a little bit about the MEP National Network. The national network was put together in the 90s when Toyota was taking over the automotive industry. They had developed lean manufacturing and were making some great inroads into our taking over manufacturing. And so Congress at the time created the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the MEP, to help bolster and teach lean manufacturing and other skills to manufacturers across the country. You can see how we're organized. We're organized in each state. Those are the individual logos for the states. And we partner very closely with our good friends from the Department of Energy to present this webinar today. Here's just a sample of some of the information that the MEP does to help companies. And it includes everything from sales and development work through ISO compliance, through lean manufacturing, which will always be kind of the keel of the boat, do advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and sustainability. And part of that includes this partnership that you're seeing here today. And so I'm going to, at this point, turn the time over to our student presenters. They will go through their content, and we ask you to enter your questions into the chat. We will answer those after they've run through their material. And feel free to at any point in the conversation to go ahead and enter in your questions, and we'll answer those together as a body. Anyway, well, thank you, and we'll also have each individual talk a little bit about, to give you their name and where they're coming from as well. So go ahead, we're ready to start.
Hello, everyone. My name is Radhika Bhakta, and I am a fourth-year student, and I'm part of the IIAC since January, and I'm an undergraduate student as well. So I just wanted to start off by giving you a little bit of information about just our mission statement as the IIAC. So we help small and medium-sized U.S. manufacturers to save energy, improve productivity, and reduce waste by providing no-cost technical assessments. And of course, we are funded by the Department of Energy. Just a little map overview of our 31 IACs around the country. The University of Utah is where we are housed as the industrial region. That location itself is one of 31 of the ones that are across the country. And basically, we are mostly student run. We have 16 undergraduate students and 8 graduate students, and we also have 3 industry professionals. Our mission is overall during our assessments that we want to have a 10% utility savings, and we want all of our recommendations to have a 2-year or less payback period. So yes, our job is, sorry, could you go back just one slide? Our job is to provide free energy assessments to small and medium-sized manufacturers. And some of the benefits of using our services is that we have no contractual obligations for customers to implement our ideas. So all the assessments that all the recommendations that we provide you, there's no obligation to actually implement any of those and all of those. Our data remains anonymous unless there's permission to share this data that's given. And also we are free as a service. And just to highlight some of the awards that we've won recently, we've won the Green Business Award in 2022, the AEE Energy Champion in 2023, and the IAC Research Award in 2023. And the application process is really easy. All you have to do is just go onto our website, energy.utah.edu, and there you'll find all the information to apply. And it's also linked in the chat.
So thank you very much, Radhika. My name is Nathaniel Fairchild. I am a junior in the chemical engineering program, and this is my second year working with the IIAC. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens after you apply for the energy analysis and assessments. We'll talk about the workflow, taking you from the start all the way to the finish. So in the beginning, we'll be talking about our pre-work. This is the phase where our clients will reach out to us, passing their business information, such as energy bills and other data, so that we can create a utility analysis for your company when we come out to your site. We'll also do some scheduling to find when it is best for you. And from there, we will do a virtual plant visit where a director and one of our leads will meet with the management in your facility to discuss the process, to discuss your needs and any concerns, and we'll also brainstorm some ideas together. From there, we will bring a team of about 5 to 6 students for a plant visit. And here we ask that you, with your faculty and your team, give us about an hour plant tour to talk about the process. We like to go from the beginning all the way to the end, this way that we can know all about your process, to know how our recommendations will affect your facility. So after we go through this plant tour, our team will then pull out our instruments, start taking measurements, collecting data. We'll place loggers. All of this information will be gathered on site, and none of it will interrupt any of the processes. So you won't have to turn anything off. And from there, we'll brainstorm the ideas and jump into our analysis. So we'll take all this information that we've collected on site back to campus and work for the next 4 to 6 weeks, collecting, analyzing, and performing calculations to find savings or recommendations. We will also find implementation costs and provide a payback period for you regarding each recommendation, which will take us to our next slide, where we will create a list of multiple recommendations, 3 or more, that are individually tailored to your needs. These recommendations will be compiled into a large report that we will provide for you at the end of this process. And with that, that concludes the main brunt of what we do. But from there, we really enjoy and are graded off of the Department of Energy based off of the implementation that actually occurs on your site. So we will follow up about 6 to 9 months later to see how those implementations are going, if you have any concerns or any questions about them, so that we can help with the implementation from there on out. Now we really want to talk about confidentiality and some safety consideration. So as we know, this information that is being passed to us, we like to ensure for all of our clients that this information, which is very sensitive and private, is kept confidential. So with that, for any companies that are concerned about the privacy of their information, there is an NDA agreement that you can sign and work through with the University of Utah so that none of the information will be passed and distributed. With that, when it comes to regards to safety, all of our team members have received basic safety training when they enter the program. And with that, we have a team safety lead at each assessment, which provides the proper protection equipment for each on-site visit. So as you let us know what you need, we will provide that and make sure that we come prepared for your site. And if you have any additional safety requirements or trainings, you can let us know and we will come prepared. And with that, I'll pass the time over to Leslie.
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. I am Leslie Maposita. I'm a graduate student seeking my master's in the Department of Chemical Engineering, and I have been with the Industrial Assessment Center for about a year. So now after Nathaniel has shared with us about the assessment process breakdown, you might be asking yourself, well, who's eligible for this free of cost assessment? And so basically, who do we serve? We serve small and medium-sized manufacturers that are predominantly industrial manufacturers. And these facilities must also meet the $100,000 to $3.5 million in annual energy expenditures per plant. This basically is your electricity, your natural gas, and other fuels such as diesel and propane. It's worth noting that that cap of 3.5 million can also be bypassed if there are actually multiple buildings within the facility. The manufacturers that actually qualified, also they have to have less than $100 million in gross annual sales per plant, less than 500 employees, and they might also be a manufacturer as defined by the NIICS code 31 through 33, with a facility that is physically located in the United States. And now I'll pass it to Creed, who's going to talk a little bit more about the implementation program.
Thank you, Leslie. As she stated, my name is Creed McCord. I'm a senior in the mechanical engineering program here at the University of Utah, and I've been with the IIAC for about a year now. I'm going to introduce the Bipartisan Infrastructure Laws Implementation Grant program. Essentially, the federal government would like to bolster its small and medium-sized manufacturers by investing in energy efficiency and productivity projects. They're achieving this goal by offering a 50-50 cost share for those aforementioned projects, and they will cover up to $300,000 of those project costs. What this means is if you invest $200,000 into improving your facility, the Department of Energy will also invest $200,000 into improving your facility. If you invest $500,000 into improving your facility, the DOE will match up to the $300,000 mark. So that pretty much summarizes the bill. That summarizes the implementation grant program. So now I'm going to talk about the eligibility for it. So the first major requirement is that the facility must have received an IAC and or CHP TAP equivalent assessment since 2018, The proposed projects in your application must address energy management, waste reduction, or productivity improvement recommendations that were made directly from one of those IAC or CHP TAP equivalent assessments. And at least one of those recommendations needs to align with the goal of achieving a net zero greenhouse gas emissions economy. It is worth noting that in addition to these eligibility requirements, if your facility is an LLC that pays separate tax from a parent company, these requirements only apply to the LLC, not the entire parent company. All right, once you're eligible, you have to apply to get this funding. And so the Department of Energy has already committed to investing $80 million in its small and medium-sized manufacturers. And we here at the Intermountain IAC would like to see as much of that $80 million invested in our Intermountain region and our manufacturers as possible. And that's part of why we're giving this webinar today. So currently, we're in the second round of applications for this program. The applications are accepted continuously throughout the year, but are only reviewed quarterly. Now, the upcoming review deadline is this December 31st, 2023, with the following application review being in the following quarter, March 31st, 2024. Here is the website where you can find the applications for either an IAC or CHP TAP equivalent assessment or the actual implementation grant itself. Here's a screenshot of where that link will take you. And underneath the submission deadline, you'll see the links to the relevant applications. Remember that you need an IAC or CHP TAP assessment before you'll be eligible for the implementation grant. If you have had an assessment, the first click here underneath the submission deadline is where you need to go. It'll ask you to create an account, and then walk you through the steps necessary to get that funding. If you haven't had an assessment, the bottom two links here on the screen will connect you with either a CHP TAP or IAC assessment provider. It is worth noting that we have already had two of our former clients receive funding from this program. So it is real, the money is there, and we want to help you get it. And yeah, that's all I've got for the bill. And now we'd like to pass it to Steve to facilitate Q&A.
Great, thank you. No, well done, everybody. Yeah, so very exciting opportunity, up to $300,000 of funding. So that would equate to about $600,000 project at your facility to improve your energy efficiency. So wanted to open this up for questions. There's probably some questions or clarifications that we can make to help you along with this. Obviously, we're more than willing to work with you through the application process and the individual assessments that need to go on with this. But we're most interested in making sure that the funding gets into your hands. And so while we're waiting for some questions to show up in the chat, let me just ask one of the group right here. So is this a post-performance grant application? So for example, do you have to complete the improvements before you receive the funding, or does the funding come in advance?
Hi, Steve. This is Julie Sieving from the University of Utah's Industrial Assessment Center. I'm one of the co-directors, just chiming in to introduce myself and say, actually, I believe that this requirement is that the projects have not been done. I don't believe that projects would be granted awards if they were post-construction. I think the applications have to be submitted pre-construction. A lot of this information that we're presenting today, honestly, is quite fluid and dynamic from DOE. So we may learn differently in the weeks and months to come. But to my knowledge, for the folks that have been successful in what has been awarded to date, they have all been pre-construction awards.
Pre-construction awards. That's important to know. That's great. Wonderful. There's also there's a question that came through on the question function here. Basically, how you say you had multiple projects identified in your assessment. How do you specify the projects that you're most interested in if you have several options in the assessment?
Steve, it's Julie again. I'm going to chime in to reply. Ultimately, the application process will take someone through the process to apply for projects. To date, I do not know of any of our customers who have been successfully awarded multiple projects, but again, it's just getting started. I would say that's a possibility in the future. Bottom line is, I would encourage that applicant to refer to the Energy Works web link that was posted in the chat. There is a couple of ways at that website to reach out to DOE directly, either by email or by joining their monthly office hours to follow up on that question specifically. But to date, that's the information that we've received.
Perfect. Fantastic. Another question here. For the annual sales requirement of greater than 100, let's see, the annual sales requirement of less than 100 million, is that an individual plant or company? My understanding is that it is based on the level taxes that were submitted. Is that correct?
I'm going to jump in one more time here because this is a point that I want to be clear on as much as possible with our group. I want the students to have a chance to answer some questions moving forward. For this particular one, I want to clarify that the eligibility related to revenue caps is specifically related to the grants and the grant funding. It is not related to our assessment process. So currently, the assessment process has a higher revenue cap than the grant funding itself. The grant funding is what has the $100 million cap. Again, like other things I've said already, this is a fairly fluid situation. We know that DOE is actually actively trying to raise that cap, but officially right now, that is the cap for grant funding. We encourage you all to stay in touch with us as well as, again, through the program website. It may take some time for that cap on revenue to be raised, but whatever information is available will be updated through the Energy Works website.
Just a clarification on that, Julie. Is the 100 million per the site or per the global company?
Right now, again, I have to differentiate in my response between the assessment process itself and the grant funding. For the assessment process, it is based on a facility by facility, location by location basis. For the grant itself, it's generally based on the parent company, but again, actually, Creed, I'm going to give you a chance to repeat that statement you made with regards to the tax filings. Would you be willing to chime in with that again?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Julie. If your facility is an LLC that pays separate taxes from your parent company, then the eligibility will just refer to your LLC, your facility. But if you do pay the same taxes as your parent company, then unfortunately the eligibility will look at your parent company's taxes.
Yeah, great clarification.
That's the current state. Again, stay tuned and stay in touch with us about future developments, but that's what we know at this time.
Fantastic. Great. A couple other questions that have come in. One question is, how do we begin with our IAC review?
Awesome. I'll pitch that out to the students. Leslie, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I would love to answer that. I think it's coming from John. Hi, John. So basically, Julie has posted in the chat a link where you can go and After you click in that link, it will take you a couple of minutes to fill out an application that just gives us your basic information. After that, we'll reach out to you so you can provide basically energy bills so that we can see if you're eligible for an assessment. And then you will be scheduled quickly within 10 days, I believe, with Julie. Stevens, our co-director.
Excellent.
Thank
Another
you.
question that came by is the IIAC assessment needed to apply for the grant fulfillment by a free assessment, or was that offered at the beginning of the presentation? So maybe somebody came in late. So, and then also too, would you want to talk a little bit about the TAP program as well too? That was something I was unfamiliar with. I'll just tack that on. So is the IAC assessment required to apply for the grant?
I could take this one.
Great.
Which is, yes, the IAC, you need an assessment from an approved provider, essentially. And the IAC is an approved provider. CHP TAP is an approved provider. There's also a list of other approved providers on the Energy Works website that was linked in the chat. You need one assessment from one of those providers, and then the implementation grant funding will go towards fulfilling recommendations that are yielded from that one assessment.
Let me what is the unique entity identifier? Do you need one to apply? And that again, that's an IRS number, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll let one of you answer that.
Honestly, that's a great question. And our team does not have an answer to that. Again, I would refer you all to the Energy Works website to reach out to DOE directly on that question. Again, you can do that in two ways. There's a general information email that they're quite responsive to, by the way, that you can use at any time, or you can also join their their monthly office hours, which I believe the next one is planned for November 16th. And again, the information for registering for those office hours is available at that same Energy Works website. I wanted to go back, Steve, on one of the previous questions you had just asked with regards to the CHP TAP. That's a lot of alphabet soup there, so I'll step back on the acronym itself and say CHP TAP stands for Combined Heat and Power Technical Assistance Program. That is a sister organization to the IAC that is also funded by the Department of Energy. We worked very closely with those CHP TAPs in developing our assessments when we have applicable shared content and projects. CHP TAPs, unlike the industrial assessment centers, are less numerous in size. Like the industrial assessment centers, there is meant to be a CHP TAP to serve each state in the U.S. If you simply Google on Department of Energy or DOE CHP TAP, you'll be able to be connected directly to them. There's also, again, a link at that Energy Works website that links you directly to being able to apply to that organization for a future assessment.
Maybe I can add a little color behind the unique entry identifier,
Okay.
if that's possible.
Great.
So that is actually a reasonably new number that has been generated. So if you're familiar with sam.gov, which is actually the registration site to be able to get qualified to do government contracts with, that for a long time they used the DUNS number or the DNB number. And probably about 2 years ago, they announced that they were actually going to go with this unique entity identifier number. Mm-hmm. And so they've been issuing those. If you Google that, you can actually, if you already have a sam.gov account, you already have one of these. If you need to get one, then you can actually just Google that, and you can actually apply for one through sam.gov. So. hopefully that's helpful. If you need some additional help on that too, we also have some very good resources in the state here through the Apex organization, formerly known as PTAC. And if you'll reach out to us, we're happy to make that connection for you and get you what you need there. Okay, that's great. There was a couple, let me see if there's any other questions here. There was a specific question about $100 million of revenue globally and over 500 employees here in Utah. And is it possible they could apply? Does somebody want to address that one?
Any students want to take a crack at that one? Okay, fair enough. I would, my best advice is when in doubt, go ahead and apply, and we will work with you directly to confirm your eligibility one way or the other. Ultimately, we really want to work with anyone who applies to our program. So there may be some ways that we can get creative in an application. Technically speaking, for an assessment, again, the $100 million revenue cap is not applicable. There's a higher cap, and it's a less stringent eligibility requirement for our assessments. The most stringent eligibility requirement is the utility expenditures, annual utility expenditure range. For the grant funding, the $100 million revenue cap at this point is a firm eligibility requirement. We hope that will change in the future, but right now, only firms that are below that $100 million revenue cap are eligible for the grant funding.
Well, excellent. What additional questions are out there? I think we've exhausted the ones that I can find in the chat or in the question Q&A section, but happy to address other ones if there are some other questions. So maybe somebody from the panel here can chime in. So let's say that somebody goes to talk to their boss and they come up with a couple other questions that need to be discussed. How do they get a hold of you? How do they get their questions answered?
I guess I'll chime in again on that one, Steve. I would encourage everybody to visit our energy.utah.edu program website for the easiest way to connect. We have contact information and other information listed there. I will also put my own email address in the chat for people's reference. They're welcome to reach out to me directly with any questions.
Excellent. Is there any comments from anything that we missed from the panelists that we need to maybe just cover real quick, or maybe you want to emphasize?
I have a question for the panelists, if I can jump in.
Sure.
Panelists, give the audience a sense of the type of opportunities that we often look for efficiency improvements and utility cost reductions at small and medium-sized manufacturers.
Could you repeat the question?
You bet. My question is, for the small and medium-sized manufacturers where we provide them energy assessment services, what are the most common opportunities for utility cost reductions that we consider? What are some of the common systems that we work with?
I'd be happy to answer that. Many of the common areas that we look at would include your HVAC, compressor systems, cooling, rooftop units, and lighting. But beyond that, we do a list of unique recommendations specific to any of the processes that companies are interested in.
I will also say that we like to prioritize big bang for the buck projects. Quick wins is another phrase that we like to use. That can be behavioral changes with your equipment, turning it on, turning it off when you actually need it versus when you don't need it. We'll place loggers on that equipment so we can actually use real data to support that analysis. We love looking at boilers. We love looking at compressors, adding VFDs to equipment that can use them. Those are all very simple, very easy to implement recommendations, and that's really what we like to prioritize because we don't want to waste your time on penny pinching.
Excellent.
And as kind of a follow-on to that as well, too, a question came in. It said, could you provide examples of the two recent, you'd mentioned there were two recent recipients. Can you give us kind of an idea of what they improved or what their projects included?
I can take that one if nobody wants to. Yeah, should I go for it? Okay, so I was just checking from the two companies that actually got the implementation grant. One of them had a replacement of HVAC equipment. They didn't say specifically, but something like a boiler or a furnace. And then the other facility, it was auxiliary equipment. Again, replacing one of the equipment. Not allowed to say exactly what equipment. I know the company, but it's basically replacing a piece of equipment for a more upgraded one so that they could reduce their energy expenditure and improve their productivity. But also, I must say, if you look at the list of projects that were implemented, there were a lot of LEDs replacement. I believe, Julie, even something with a power factor included in one of those projects implemented. BFDs as well.
Yep. You're correct, Leslie. Thank you. I'll just point out to all the attendees that I just posted in the chat a link actually to all of the projects that were awarded in the first round. So you can check out that link to get a great sense of the types of projects that were awarded, as well as the relative magnitudes of funding that those projects received. I will also say that we are working on future webinars, and we hope to bring on some folks who have been successful to offer our customers some case studies for that. So stay tuned for that as well.
This has been excellent. Well, not seeing any additional questions, I think we'll wrap this up. But I want to just make a final point for manufacturing in Utah. Manufacturing employs 9% of the workforce in the state of Utah, but it produces 25% of the state's GDP, which is manufacturing is the engine and that makes our life so good here in Utah. And anything we can do to strengthen that only helps all of us. And so all of these people on this call today, they work tirelessly to help manufacturing improve and to help small and medium businesses succeed in their efforts. And so we wanted to express our gratitude and appreciation for attending the webinar today. And please reach out and let's see if we can't get something together or answer the questions that you have. So thank you very much for being here.